Welcome into another episode of Plead Your Case. Fall is a busy time of year for sports, and we got a lot to unpack today, including some more controversy in the MLB, some midseason awards to give out in the NFL, and the Heisman watch is coming down to a great close. And I have some great gentlemen joining me here today. Alongside me, Joe Smeltzer, Dylan Scritchfield, and Bruce Davidson. When we come back, we're going to open things up with the MLB discussion. So sit down and get ready to plead your case.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Plead Your Case, WCTV's only national sports talk show.
That's kind of a hit or miss. You're either going to win big or you're going to just come out flat.
Those are the two other pieces of this team outside of James Harden that you need to focus on.
Welcome back to Plead Your Case. Now, it seems we talk about this just about every week, but there's some more umpire controversy in the MLB. Lance Barksdale had a hard time explaining the reasoning behind his calls in Game 5 of the World Series. And gentlemen, we have a lot to unpack here. So, Joe, we're going to talk a little bit about automated strike zones, umpire via a robot. What would you feel? Do you feel that's going to advance the game, or do you feel that detracts from kind of the traditional role of baseball?
I think as more we watch professional umpires screw up at the highest level of baseball and on baseball's biggest stage, the World Series, the more the argument for an automated strike zone makes sense. My biggest issue with an automated strike zone wouldn't necessarily be the human element of baseball being taken out, which I think that'd be the biggest issue for most people. It would be that baseball hasn't really tried to hold its umpires accountable. Until MLB tries to do things to let the world know that this is a big issue with umpires making as many mistakes as they are, I think that you try to stick with the umpires you have and try to make them better, at least make some sort of effort. Because if you go to an automated strike zone, that's a tell-all sign that the umpires aren't good enough. And why not try to make them good enough? Why not reprimand them? Why not force them to answer for themselves after games the way the players do to the press? So I get the argument for an automated strike zone. I think I wouldn't mind seeing it somewhere down the road, maybe a few years from now, maybe more than a few years from now. But I think another step for baseball to fix this issue would be to have umpires hold themselves accountable and have the league hold the umpires accountable, because so far the MLB really hasn't tried to do that.
You'd have to think there'd be some type of way we could institute rules to where umpires have to participate with the media. I think it could go for all sports, if you really want me to be honest. But
and it doesn't exist in any sports. And this isn't just a baseball problem. This is a football problem, a basketball problem, you name it. Whatever sport umpires don't to talk to the press, I don't think that's right. So,
Bruce, your thoughts on this?
I agree with Joe that this isn't a problem that is just going to go away overnight, and the umpires need to start to be held accountable for the mistakes they make. But the fear I have with this is you're going to run into the same problem the NFL gets. You're going to micromanage every pitch, every at-bat, and the game is just going to get drawn out and take what should be a 3.5 hour match and turn it into a 4.5 hour ordeal. You're going to, offer the ability to challenge balls and strikes now? Is that what we're heading to? I don't want the human element of any sport to be taken out. Do I want to get the call right? Yes, but just because technology makes things better doesn't make things easier or smoother. So I'm not in favor of the automated strike zone at all.
You got to think pace of play and the attention span of humans really comes into it. And baseball already struggles enough with this issue. And I know we've had some more elements that have been added to it, where home runs have gone up in recent years, strikeouts have gone up in recent years, and they've tried to make the game more exciting in that aspect. But Dylan, is this pace of play thing, do you think, going to affect how reviews are mandated in baseball?
Oh, for sure. If you change the pace of play of baseball, a lot of people said, baseball traditionalists, whichever have you, a lot of them say the game is too long as it is with all the commercials, all the fancy this and that. Why would you want that? Get to the game, get right with it. I agree with these guys. They also brought up the whole fact of the whole NFL. Touching on that, the whole PI thing changed with the NFL. Rule changes bring controversy no matter what, and with that, think about it. They review pass interference. That takes sometimes 10, 15 minutes. Fans get aggravated. It's only going to up that in baseball, it being America's pastime and already hated for being too long. longer than past games. So.
I still feel we even have so much trouble just even in reviewing stuff, just regular plays, not even balls and strikes. I mean, Trey Turner last night in that Game 6 of the World Series, it's a close game. You have a chance to get runners in scoring position. He runs a straight line to that base, and the ball just happens to hit him. And, like, you would think he would get second base just because the ball got away, but no, he gets called out, and I just thought it was atrocious. I mean, how can you have that? How can you even review that and then have to go back and just make a change?
Well, another thing to think about, Sam, regarding a change like this is the last major change baseball made regarding getting calls right was advancing replay back in 2014. The idea was good. The execution's been horrible, and you have to think about if the automated strike zone comes into play, how's the execution going to be?
Yeah, and honestly, this has just been an issue because we have so much human error already in this game. And if you can't get the calls right on replay, if you can't get it right in 30 seconds, I don't even know if there should be a replay.
Yeah. I agree.
And that's what extenuates the game. It's what makes it so long. And we had a 10, 15-minute delay just to review that play, which I thought could have been like pronounced pretty clearly. But
and I think the sport that does the best job of that is the NHL, as far as the efficiency in which replays are solved. Because in the games I watch, a goal review never lasts any more than maybe a minute, minute and a half.
But you know where the NHL runs into problems? It's reviewing offsides. It's reviewing all types of things. They still have, like, you can challenge a review in the NHL after that. So you end up having reviews back to back. And then people are like, well, I don't want to watch this. There's other stuff on. It's basically a commercial break how long it's getting. So it's just really that pace of play aspect that really affects just how far we can even go really with replay. And now, do you guys really think that do you think this system, if we went with an automated robotic umpire system, do you think it would work? Or do you think this human error thing would still be an issue?
No, you brought up human error, and I'm happy that you did that because every sport has human error. Think back early 1900s and just moving on. Every single sport has human error. That's part of the sport. That's what we're all used to. You go into changing that, we're going to see more changes. Yes, people change, sports change, players change, but over time, if you change the sport and rules and everything, does it become the same sport that you know and love? And just like you asked, like for example, on July 10th, 2019, an automated system was used for the strike zone for the first time for a full game. It was the Atlantic League All-Star Game, and just like humans with human error, it wasn't perfect. Robots were created by humans. It wasn't perfect. There was a strike. There was a ball that was called a strike. The ball almost hit the dirt, actually, and the ump had a little earpiece in, and when the batter went to argue it, because that was for strike 3, actually, he couldn't do anything because he was told by the automated system up above, I think it's D-Dropper, I think was the name of it, and then he couldn't do anything, and afterwards when he was interviewed, he said, I knew it was a ball, I would have called ball, but I was told to call strike, and he also said, and I quote, it's uncharted territory. So when we're getting into that, if you want to implement that, because the World Series is happening big, if you want to implement that now, that's a problem because you're on the biggest stage. If you're going to implement it, I just don't see how you could do it in the World Series.
So do you think players should be reprimanded for making comments about this? Do you think they should still have, like, where do you think the players' say really comes into this? Do you think how big of a say should they really have in all of this in this aspect?
I think they should have a huge say because they're the ones that it affects. I think that it's ridiculous. As long as a player is respectful in his criticism, which we talked about Trey Turner earlier, he was respectful last night. He didn't drop any profanities, didn't go on an explicit ways tirade. I think if a player can respectfully get his point across, then I don't think they should be reprimanded.
Do you think it was fair for Fox to even mic him up? I mean, we have that issue. We talk about that issue on Monday Night Football with Sam Darnold being mic'd up and talking about seeing ghosts.
Well, Trey Turner knew he was mic'd up, and he knew that what he was said was going to get picked up. I don't know how
in the moments, like the heat of the moments, yeah, you don't. You're so into the game, you don't even remember the mic's on you. Like you're so hyped up. In that situation, I don't blame him for saying what he said. It's how he felt.
And it's not like he said anything terrible.
No, it's just how he represented it.
And the players are the ones who are playing the game. They're the ones that the fans come out to see. So
pay money for.
Yeah, they should have their voices heard as long as they do it within respect to the umpires and the league itself.
Gentlemen, real quick, Game 7 tonight. Who you got? Nats, Astros. Bruce, go ahead.
I'm going to go with the Nationals just because I feel like we're going to see history and the fact that home field advantage is going to mean absolutely nothing this year, and you're going to see the road team win every game of a 7-game series.
I agree, Nats.
Washington, Scherzer's had a good playoff. Zach Greinke hasn't. that's going to be the difference in starting pitching.
Yep, give me Mad Max and the Nationals. Thank you, gentlemen. That was some beautiful stuff. And when we come back, the NFL is in the heat of things right now. We're going to go ahead and talk about the midseason here on Plead Your Case.
Have you ever been to the Eberly Library? If not, you should, because it's great. They have books of all different genres: history, biography, fiction. Try The Evolution of Life, Life of Pi, or Jurassic Park. So what if books aren't your thing? Try movies like Frozen, or TV shows like Lost. Books and DVDs aren't the only thing though. Take a trip to the second floor. Welcome to the Writing Center. These tutors will tell you everything you need to know about writing a paper, and they'll help revise your essays. Now let's head back down. Behold, the Knox Learning Center. Need to print something out 5 minutes before your next class because you procrastinated? No problem. You can also print off pictures of dogs. Because, well, you can. So grab your homework, laptop, and textbook, and study diligently. Bring your lunch too. Actually, you can't. That's illegal. Now you know the Eberly Library. Stop by anytime. Seriously, it's open all week.
Welcome back to Plead Your Case. The NFL midseason is rather chaotic right now, and we're going to take a little bit of time to discuss that. And gentlemen, you can get with this or you can get with that. Biggest surprise right now, 49ers or Ravens. Jared Wiker, you start us off.
Well, it has to be the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson has proven that he is a legit dual-threat quarterback in the league. Before the season, I was very skeptical, but he has proven me wrong, and I'm actually happy about that because I do like to see more styles of quarterbacks. Of course, he can run and throw the ball. He has 1,650 passing yards already this season, which is 20th in the league, but it's not terrible, and 576 rushing yards, 10th in the league for rushing overall, even if you include all the running backs. So he's running the field on people, and he's 7th in QBR with a 66.7 rating, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and he was able to beat the Seahawks in Seattle. So, I mean, for me, really, it has to be the Ravens.
I think that Lamar Jackson has really proven a lot of people wrong. A lot of people are going as far as calling him a running back throwing the football, and it's just blatantly disrespectful for a guy that has much success in college and now leading this Ravens team. When he came in last season, he was the difference maker. So, bigger surprise, Niners, Ravens, Scritchfield, go ahead.
It's an easy one. I say the Niners. If we're talking players, Jared, I'm with you with Lamar Jackson, but he doesn't make up the team. I feel like the 49ers, no one expected a 7-0 start, They run the ball 57% of the time. That's top in the league. Also without tackles. They're out with 2 starting tackles, and they still decided to run the ball. That shows play calling. That shows how much they believe in their offensive line. Another thing is, with Lamar coming in last year, he had immediate success. He has 3 great tight ends, 3 great receivers that can catch the ball that way. Had a decent run game, has Mark Ingram now. So I feel like we all expected success. The AFC North, we'll get to the Browns in a little bit, but overall, they're almost running away with it. The 49ers, 7-0. Ravens only 5-2. I got to go with the 49ers, and for me, it's not even close. If we're talking players, I agree with Lamar, but as a team, the Niners, the defensive line is their main cognate for whatever they want to do, and as a team, the Niners are better.
And the Niners really I think a very well-coached team under Kyle Shanahan, and Tevin Coleman's been impressive this year. A lot of questions about Jimmy Garoppolo and the health of his knee, and that front four has got to be the fastest in the league if I've seen it. So, yep. Joe Smeltzer, 49ers, Ravens.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Dylan. It's the San Francisco 49ers. This was a team that was the second worst team in the NFL last year, which ended up being a blessing because they got Nick Bosa out of it, and he's been not only the best defensive rookie in football, he might end up winning Defensive Player of the Year. I just feel that as far as the Ravens go, Jackson's been somewhat surprising, but this is a team that won a division championship last year. I think the common thought was that if Jackson could play well, this will be a team that has a chance to win the AFC North again, and that's where it looks like it's headed. And also, Baltimore's been very lucky with Ben Roethlisberger getting hurt and with Cleveland being inept in the AFC North. Right. So San Francisco 49ers 7-0, absolutely nobody saw that coming. They're going from Well, they weren't quite the worst last year, but looks like they're going to be first this year. So quite a turnaround, and it's been a shock. I don't think anybody saw that coming.
I disagree with the Niners, though, really, because Jimmy Garoppolo was out for most of the season last year, and people knew before the season started that they had Nick Bosa.
But they didn't know how he'd play coming back, though. Like, yeah, he played well the first time, but then he got injured, so they're thinking, what about the knee? But coming into this season, we knew Lamar Jackson and an offense could go. Yeah, we didn't know Jimmy G and the 49ers were going to be good.
The big question was about Lamar, though. People didn't know if he actually could sustain through a season. We see many running quarterbacks that just fizzle out. RG3, you can name so many. Garoppolo was 8-2 before this current season, and now he's 15-2. I mean, he was proven he was able to win with the Patriots and the Niners before that. He won 6 in a row.
But do you think it's the Patriots system or him, though? So.
Great stuff, guys. Now we're going to move on. We're going to stick with an AFC North team. We got the Cleveland Browns or the Chicago Bears. Both have been rather disappointing this season. Mitch Trubisky really hasn't come up to what people thought he was going to be so far, and Baker Mayfield and that Cleveland team just really struggling. So, once again, bigger disappointment, Browns, Bears. Jared, go ahead.
It's definitely the Browns. They were 12-4 last year. They made the playoffs. Unfortunately, lost to Philadelphia because of Cody Parkey couldn't hit a field goal. But, I mean, they still won their division last year, and Mitchell Trubisky is definitely the reason why they are not good this year. If they had any other decent quarterback, not even good, just an average quarterback playing, they would not be 3-4 like they are currently. It's just ridiculous to me.
And you got to think that it's in the back of Bears fans' minds that you took Mitch Trubisky over Deshaun Watson, over Patrick Mahomes, last year's MVP.
And you traded up to get him, too.
And that's just really got to be disappointing for the Bears. The one thing they do have is that great defense, but overall just not a satisfying season for their fans. And Dylan, I'm going to ask you the same question, Browns or Bears?
I'm happy to say that I agree with you this time, Wiker. The Browns, they have such talent. You got Odell, you got Jarvis, you got Nick Chubb. Baker Mayfield is no scrub by no means, but when you throw 6 touchdowns on 12 picks, you're giving the ball away to teams, and then you're expecting your defense, even though they are good. Myles Garrett has 10 sacks, mainly really the only good one because Denzel Ward, the other hyped young player on their defensive side, has 0 interceptions. So where has he gone this year? The Browns, they have no culture. Baker's throwing so many picks. I love him. Don't get me wrong. He can ball. But whenever you throw 12 interceptions and you are, what are they, 2-5? You just can't do that. And you're expecting Nick Chubb to pick up the slack, which he has. He almost has the same amount of yardage he had all of last year already. He's amazing. Their offensive line is iffy. Their coaching staff has no culture. They can't coach, and it's just been a complete crapshoot there in Cleveland.
It was a recipe for disaster, them playing as poorly as they have and having to go face a New England Patriots team that's just been dominant on the defensive side of the football, and it just really haven't gotten a lot of production out of those receivers this year, have the Browns. And Joe Smeltzer, one last time, Browns or Bears, biggest disappointment?
Well, you two said the Browns. I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm not playing devil's advocate. It's absolutely
come on, Mitch Trubisky.
The Cleveland Browns. Yes, the Bears had a better season than Cleveland did last year, but coming into the year, if you asked most people who do you think is going to win the NFC North, they would have said either Aaron Rodgers and the Packers or Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. I don't think the Bears were a hot pick at all to win the NFC North, the way the Browns were to win the AFC North. Cleveland, most hyped season in 20 years since they came back to Cleveland after being moved by Art Mardell to Baltimore, and the Browns have fallen flat on their face. And when you look at it, with Big Ben going down for the Steelers, who I think were the other hot pick to win the North, I think most people thought it was going to be the Steelers or the Browns. Roethlisberger goes down. That should have opened the door for Cleveland. It hasn't. They've been awful, and somebody needs to be held accountable, and that person needs to be Baker Mayfield.
Really quickly, guys, we're going to go to most likely to have a good second half of the season. And the Indianapolis Colts have surprised a lot of people this season, losing Andrew Luck, adding in Jacoby Brissett. They haven't skipped a beat. And the Rams, they've had some up and down weeks here and there, but they're still that team that has that defense. And they also added Jalen Ramsey to that defense, mind you. So one last time, most likely to have a better second half of the season, Colts-Rams.
The most likely is going to be the Colts, and it's mainly because the Rams have a really tough schedule. They play the Ravens, the Seahawks, Cowboys, and the 49ers. I think that the Rams won't be able to pull it off just against that many really good teams. I do think the Rams are good, but Jacoby Brissett has proven that he's a very capable starting quarterback, and the Colts have somehow been able to find ways to win football games.
Dylan?
I disagree. I got to say the Rams, mainly because you can't pick against them. They have so many weapons. They're going to finally get it together, I believe, with Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods and Josh Reynolds. You name me 4 receivers on the same team that are better than them, and I'll give you that. But you can't. Todd Gurley will finally pick it up. Goff will pick up his play. The defense added Jalen Ramsey, just like you said. The Colts, to me, they've won games, but they're not going to be able to do that for the rest of their schedule. They're just not going to be able to find ways.
Joe.
Part of me wants to say the Rams because I think Indy has been better than what people were expecting after Luck retired, and by the same token, LA has been worse. And I believe things in sports have a way of evening themselves out. But at the same time, just looking at who LA has coming up, they have Seattle, Dallas, San Francisco. The Cardinals team has gone better. Those are, except for Arizona, those are playoff teams. Those are division-winning caliber teams. And I just don't feel that the Colts have as tough a road ahead. They play the Dolphins. They play the Jaguars twice. They play Houston without J.J. Watt. They have the Titans at home, who they beat Tennessee already. So with the schedule the Colts have, I think they're the favorites to win the AFC South, and I think they're going to keep this hot run going throughout the second half of the season.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your fantastic insight. And we come back to Plead Your Case. We're going to be talking a little bit of Heisman football, so keep it here. Welcome back to Plead Your Case. The Heisman race is heating up, and I'm pretty excited for this one, guys. Today we got Jared Wiker versus Bruce Davidson. Wiker versus Davidson, and we're going to ask a very simple question. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds each, then we'll talk a little bit about it. Who's your Heisman winner, Bruce, right now?
Right now, it is the most outstanding player in NCAA football. That's what the definition is. And to me, the player that is the most outstanding right now is none other than Chase Young for Ohio State. He's got 13.5 sacks on the season. That's 3.5 more than anyone else. One more, he's going to break the Ohio State record for sacks. Not to mention, he's second in the nation in forced fumbles with 5. And top it all off, he's tied for the national lead in tackles for loss. This guy just jumps off my screen and is what my eyes believe to be the best player in college football.
Jared, you have a little bit of a different take. Go ahead.
Well, I have another former Ohio State University player, and his name is Joe Burrow, senior for LSU. His team is 8-0 right now. Joe Burrow already has 2,805 passing yards, second in college football, only behind Anthony Gordon at Washington. And he also has a 91.4 QBR, fourth in college football, and his lowest QBR game so far this season is 82.6%. That's a scale of 0 to 100, 50 being average, and his lowest is an 82. He also has 30 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and oh yeah, let's not forget, he's beat 3 top 10 teams already this season, and LSU's undefeated, and I think they will come back and bite Ohio State in the playoffs.
Let me tell you, I think the most impressive thing about Joe Burrow has to be that completion percentage, 78% on the season. And Bruce, I like your pick. Chase Young's a little bit of a different pick. We haven't really seen a whole lot of defensive players even qualify for the Heisman. I mean, one that I can really think of is Manti Te'o, but I mean, Young, he's really got the numbers, doesn't he?
He does, and to me, I'm tired of seeing the Heisman Trophy become the quarterback and occasionally running back popularity contest. You can't tell me that you're just going to gloss over someone like Chase Young. You can double team him, and then what? You're just going to get sacked by the other side of the Ohio State line. Or if he drops into coverage, well, now you only have to worry about focusing on 3 receivers instead of 4. He's a game breaker, and he's someone that I believe it's a lot harder to limit his impact as opposed to Joe Burrow.
No, I totally think that this Heisman race really comes down to not only Chase Young, a player on Chase Young's team that's Chase Young, but Justin Fields, who I think has been phenomenal this season. I mean, he has on the total on the year 35 total touchdowns, 33 rather, total touchdowns on the season. And I think he's been phenomenal for the Buckeyes as well. But that Buckeyes defense, they really know how to stop people. They have a big test coming up in Penn State in a couple weeks, so that'll be a huge game for them. And Joe Burrow, he's beaten a couple of impressive opponents himself this year, beating number 6 Florida by 2 touchdowns and, of course, number 11 Auburn. They play Bama next week.
Yeah, as I mentioned, 3 top 10 teams. At the time that LSU played these teams, Texas Longhorns, they were 9th in the country. The Florida Gators were 7th. And the Auburn Tigers, who they just beat last week, were 9th. And Joe Burrow has proven time and time again that he is clutch. He's a warrior. He fights for his team. He's running the field on people. He's making it look easy. And last year, the thing is that people forget, LSU's offense was not as good as it is this year. This year, they are a force to be reckoned with. They can win games finally just on their offense, and they've proven that. And they're totally rewritten the LSU narrative of really good defense.
How much do you really think the strength of schedule really even plays into this whole Heisman voting thing? I mean, these guys obviously have the numbers, but does it really matter the opponents they beat? Do you think that matters?
Yes, and that's why I'm glad that at least both of our picks are not somebody playing for Alabama who consistently has a cupcake schedule. You can make the argument that LSU has played real competition. Florida, Auburn, yes, they're both also SEC teams, but you don't see Alabama going out to schedule Texas. And Ohio State, year in and year out, has to fight in the war of the Big Ten East with Penn State, Michigan, and occasionally Michigan State. So yeah, strength of schedule matters. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it makes a big difference.
I certainly think that works in Joe Burrow's favor then, if that's the case, if it matters so much, because, I mean, Ohio State, they've really ran the Big Ten the past couple years. Jim Harbaugh's really struggled to even get any impressive victories. James Franklin's underachieved in general as a coach at Penn State, and while he's turned the program around, maybe changed the culture a little bit, I'll tell you what, Ed Orgeron and LSU, they've got a program going on down there, and Joe Burrow's been at the head of it. And this is really the first time that LSU's had a quarterback the potential of Joe Burrow, and it's always been that defense, how good they are, but now they got Joe Burrow, and this offense is looking like one of the best in the nation.
Certainly, and it has to be. I mean, last week alone, Joe Burrow struggled early against Auburn in their big front seven, but then late in the game, he came back, took over, and LSU hung on. And also against the Florida Gators, they were tied 21-all at halftime. LSU comes out in the second half. Coach Ed and Joe Burrow come out, and they win 42-21. I mean, LSU has proven that they're not a one-horse team in the league in college football, and they're really proving people wrong.
Gentlemen, great stuff. Thank you so much for joining me, and both great takes on the Heisman race. But that's going to do it for this episode of Plead Your Case. Tune in next time for all the talk and national sports debate. Have a good night, everybody.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.